Welcome, one and all. It is Cannabis News. I'm your host, Joe Klare. It's September 5th, 2019. The show, as always, is presented to you by the Marijuana Times. Find us at marijuanatimes.org. A lot of great stories there. Click that video tab to find the show today. Talking more about bootleg vape cartridges, also a new organization called Civil. We'll make you aware of them. And something called vitamin E acetate may be the cause of a lot of the problems with the vaporizer cartridges that are happening around the country. The ill health effects. Now 2 reported deaths linked to them as well. We'll catch you up on all of that. But first, of course, Cannabis News is brought to you by Natureside, nature-side.com, and their organic, all-natural pesticides. Don't use harmful chemicals on what you're growing. Grow safe and poison-free. Be regulatory compliant in the state that you are growing in. These things can and will be done. You contact Natureside, nature-side.com, a proud sponsor of Cannabis News. This first story by yours truly at marijuanatimes.org. A lot of it is a recap of a story I told here on the show. I guess it was last week. It's called Beware Bootleg Vape Cartridges. Of course, you can find it on marijuanatimes.org, and you can click the link in the description of this video as well if you want to see the full story. I'm not going to go into it in depth here. Basically, about a year ago, I tried some of these cartridges for a few weeks, experimented with them, and although I didn't have any, as far as I know, lasting ill health effects, there was something off about them. I'm talking about the bootleg vape cartridges, the $40 ones, the ones that are, not good, the ones I wouldn't touch now. And as I say in the article, I should have done more research then, because it was very easy. I mean, it wasn't as much information back then as there is now, but there was some. And once I went looking for it, I found it and realized what the problem was and ceased using them. We'll talk more about the vape cartridges coming up. As I said, there's a story that came out just a couple hours ago in the Washington Post about maybe a common denominator chemical in many of these cases, the vitamin E, acetate. But first, I'm going to bring your attention to a group called Civil, Cannabis Industry Victims Educating Litigators. It can be found at civil.org. That's civil with an E, obviously, for educating. And they have their website so far is pretty bare bones. Obviously, they're just in the formulating stages of their group, which is basically they want people who were supposedly injured by the cannabis industry to come forward, file class action lawsuits and such against cannabis companies. And to help with that, they have a list of marijuana industry victims. They have different categories that you'll be grouped in, I guess, if you come forward with your injuries due to the marijuana industry. Some of them are obvious for a group like this. Some of them are kind of odd. We'll go through a few of them. The first one is accident victims, people who are injured, or people are injured in marijuana-related accidents, such as in workplace, homes, schools, and public places. This includes those injured by explosions caused by marijuana production. Number 2 just says abused elders. Elders may be abused by marijuana users. Moving on. Children of marijuana users. Many children have marijuana-using parents and may be abused or neglected by those parents. Marijuana use is not a victimless crime. It is involved in child abuse, neglect, and divorce. First of all, it's not a crime because the people who use marijuana are not infringing on the rights of anyone else. But to this notion that we're going to attribute victims down the line, if I eat too many Big Macs, I'm a victim of McDonald's. If you can do a lot of things to where someone may become a victim down the line, but then you're trying to decide on whether or not that thing should be illegal. If someone drinks, well, they may drive, and someone may become a victim of their drunk driving. Therefore, should they not drink? Where do you cut that off? Where do you cut off eating Big Macs? Where do you cut off all kinds of things that could possibly have quote unquote victims down the line? It's again this notion that society is somehow a victim of the actions of an individual. And as I've said before, you can use that for anything. You can literally use that excuse that society is a victim and ban anything. Absolutely anything. Marijuana is involved in child abuse, neglect, and divorce. I mean, obviously they have no proof of these things. They're just making general statements. And if it's involved in even one of those cases, then I guess their statement would be technically true. Listen, number 4, crime victims. People are killed, assaulted, and robbed by marijuana users. What? Who are these people? Domestic violence victims, spouse abuse and abuse of relatives may be caused by marijuana use. What's that based on? Not a shred of evidence to back up that kind of statement. But like a lot of different categories here. Grandparents may be a victim category. Many parents are addicted to marijuana, and as a result, their children are being raised by their children's grandparents. In addition, many grandparents have marijuana addicted grandchildren. It's just a vicious cycle. There's destroying grandparenting in this country. Marijuana consumers may be victims. There's product liability for production and sale of dangerous and or contaminated or poorly processed marijuana for medical or recreational use, which is true, but I doubt a lot of those people are going to be going to civil for that. Marijuana addicts, society pays a high price for the addiction of marijuana users. You know what you could replace the phrase marijuana users with in that sentence? Society pays a high price for the addictions of blank, and put in anything there. And you say, well, society is going to pay a high price for that. Is a non-argument. Number 13, medical, they put medical in quotes, medical marijuana users. Marijuana may be more dangerous than regulated pharmaceuticals, and it causes many harms. What proof is there of that? What proof is that marijuana may be more dangerous than regulated pharmaceuticals? Name one. Name one. I would submit that marijuana is safer than anything you can buy off the shelf at Walgreens. What? Name these things. Of course, they don't, and for obvious reasons, not just because they can't, because as lawyers, they want to make it as general as possible. They want to net as many people as possible into these groups. Because you got to have a large group of people to be able to do these things. So you want to scoop up as many as possible. People who suffer mental health impairment due to marijuana users can develop mental illnesses due to marijuana use. This causes suicide and violence. Parents who have addicted children or who have lost children to marijuana-related deaths or mental illnesses. I say it goes on and on. Here's one of my favorites. Number 18, sexual victims. Marijuana use leads to sexual promiscuity and spread of AIDS and other blood-borne infections. Holy crap! I had no idea. The trademark and copyright infringement of students in schools. Those threatened and harassed by marijuana users and marijuana advocates. Like I said, they're trying to cull as much of a group together as they can. So they got to make it as general as possible. So I just want you to be aware of civil with an E, if you weren't yet. There's definitely something to keep an eye on. Excuse me. This last story is from the Washington Post. Like I said, just came out a couple hours before we recorded this episode. Contaminant found in marijuana vaping products linked to deadly lung illnesses. Tests shows, there's a look, if you're watching the video version of the show, on the screen at what some of that packaging looks like. I'm very familiar with the dank vapes packaging. That was a lot of what I experimented with about a year ago. Came in that packaging. There was one other that I failed to remember, but it's basically the same thing as you're looking at right there. State and federal health officials investigating mysterious lung illnesses linked to vaping have found the same chemical in samples of marijuana products used by people sickened in different parts of the country and who use different brands of products in recent weeks. Chemicals and oil derived from vitamin E. Investigators at the U.S. FDA found the oil in cannabis products and samples collected from patients who fell ill across the United States. FDA officials shared that information with state health officials during a telephone briefing this week, according to several officials who took part in the call. Same chemical was also found in nearly all cannabis samples from patients who fell ill in New York in recent weeks, a state health department spokeswoman said. While this is the first common element found in samples from across the country, health officials said it is still too early to know whether this is causing the injuries. Vitamin E is found naturally in certain foods such as canola oil, olive oil, and almonds. The oil is derived from the vitamin known as vitamin E acetate. The oil derived from the vitamin known as vitamin E acetate is commonly available as a nutritional supplement and is used in topical skin treatments. It is not known to cause harm when ingested as a vitamin supplement or applied to the skin. Its oil-like properties could be associated with the kinds of respiratory symptoms that many patients have reported. It's because its molecular structure can make it hazardous when inhaled. Different symptoms have been things like coughness, shortness of breath, and chest pain, officials said. One official who listened to the briefing but was not authorized to speak publicly said, "We knew from earlier testing by New York that they had found vitamin E acetate, but to have FDA talk about it from their overall testing plan, that was the most remarkable thing we heard." So again, no definitive proof that that is what is causing it, but it is a common denominator among many of the samples. There's a long story with a lot of details. You want to look more in depth into it, obviously, click the link in the description of this video. Not all samples were suitable for testing, so it's very random at what samples they get for testing. It's still a fluid situation. It's a very new situation. They point out that a lot of states are required to report these things to various government agencies like the Centers for Disease Control, at least not required by law to do so. Now, obviously, with this stuff in the news, they'll be more likely to do that. And the CDC and the FDA is collecting data on what exactly is going on. But as I talked about in yesterday's show, with an op-ed that attempted to pin this on THC, I vehemently disagree with that. You can go back in yesterday's show, the September 4th show, to check out my diatribe, my rant on that. And otherwise, beware. I mean, if vape cartridges are cheap, they're probably, I wouldn't use them. I just wouldn't. If it's less than 80 or 90 bucks, you know they didn't come from a dispensary unless someone stole a bunch of them. They're not going to be able to make a profit selling vape carts for 40 bucks a piece. Even if it does have the fancy packaging, you can get the fancy packaging online, delivered to you, bam, you stick it in there, you're selling it. It's harming a lot of people. And I guess we'll continue to do so until enough people realize what's going on. But we see the same thing with stuff like the K2 and the spice and stuff like that. People think there's workarounds to natural cannabis, and they end up getting burned in the process. Real, natural cannabis, legal across the board. We'll be fine. We'll be better than fine. We'll be doing great. Great, I say. Thanks everybody for checking out the show today. Keep liking, sharing, commenting on the videos. Find the audio version of the show on Apple Podcasts. Of course, the videos can be found at marijuanatimes.org and on YouTube and Vimeo. Thank you to NatureSide, nature-side.com, and their organic, all-natural pesticides. Thank you all for watching and listening today, and we'll see you next time right here on Cannabis News.